Good afternoon. It's Graham Healy from the Healer Report. I've had to get on live. I'll put this on a video later on, but I've got to put my two bobs worth in. I've just heard some over the last few days since the tariffs have been brought in. I've heard so much stupidity and people that have on places in the media that are really just talking a lot of BS. Now it's Tuesday the 8th and I'm just holding my breath, just waiting for Albo and Dutton to go head to head with probably the most idiotic debate that's ever happened. Look, I'm going to get into this, just covering the points. Okay, number one, I hear people say, I don't believe in tariffs, and I do believe in tariffs. I hate Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. You've got Billboard Chris, the guy from Canada who's standing at universities and, the Brisbane Mall and all this sort of stuff, just with a sign on says, children shouldn't have their genitalia mutated, and shouldn't be on hormone blockers and all this sort of stuff, which is pretty common sense, and he gets arrested and all this sort of stuff. What on God's earth has happened to Australia? Have we gone that far woke that people have no sense of reality anymore? It's just, should men be in boys' sports and boys be in men's sports? This is insane. And it's all designed to break down the family unit, right? I'm not going to go down that area, but just watching this clown show go on, I get a bit of a laugh listening to them. This is the Billboard Chris at universities, and people are seriously arguing that children should be allowed to have their genitalia removed and changed from a boy to a girl and a girl to a boy, because they think they're a boy if they're a girl, or because they think they're a girl if they're a boy. Well, I can think that I've got brown hair like I used to have, but it's gone silver. I can think it all I like, but it's not going to change the colour of my hair. I can think I'm 21, but I'm, 70 this year. I can think it as much. This is just madness. I used to work at hospitals in psych wards, and we used to have people in the psych ward with this sort of mentality. So, what's happened out there is that you've had a generation of brainwashed morons that are getting airspace these days. They should be in the detention centre. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, the insanity of it all, right? But let's get back to the Trump and tariffs. Oh, I don't believe in tariffs. Well, you don't believe. What's believing got to do with anything? You don't believe in tariffs. Now, what Trump's doing, do you believe in globalism? Do you believe in debt slavery? Do you believe in clean energy? Oh, you do, but you don't believe in the factories that are going on in China and Indonesia, where people have got, hydrochloric acid all over for miles and miles of land, refining the lithium and everything else they need in batteries. Oh, you don't believe in that, do you? It's just hypocrisy of the nth degree, where one side of the equation is just talking complete BS, and the other side of the equation's over there in some third world country. Well, we might be a third world country shortly if we don't wake up. In basically slave mines, I suppose you could say, mining precious minerals for the batteries and all this sort of stuff. And in the meantime, they're catching on fire here. Anyway, I'm not going to go down that road, but the hypocrisy and the idiotic mentality behind all this is just unreal. Now, regarding tariffs, this is a simple thing that Trump's doing. Now, whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump, or whatever mentality that, why the hell some people can't think straight, I don't know. But whether you like him or you don't, this is what tariffs are all about. It's about levelling the playing field. If I'm in business And a lot of these people who make commentaries never been in business. They've been on the public servant gravy train for their whole life. I've run several businesses and had to do it the hard way. So if I'm trading with business A and they're getting subsidised by the government, but I'm not getting subsidised by the government, I'm paying an unfair tariff, aren't I? By them being paid by the government and I'm not paid by the government. Common sense, number one's gone out the door this era. So, on the international scene, I'll give you one example. Trump's talking about Canada. Now, Canada is charging $200 billion a year in tariffs to the US. But what's the US charging Canada? Nothing. And protecting them with the military, etc., etc., etc. Then you'll flick to all these other countries. In fact, the Trump camp reports that 70 countries now have come to the table because they've realised if they don't deal fairly with Trump, it's going to be no deal. It's going to be win-win or no deal. That's as simple as Trump's philosophy, basically. And, you know, if you want to really see Donald Trump's mentality, which is a winning mentality, just read his book, The Art of the Deal. I've got it here somewhere. Just hang on. Sorry, looked around, got it here somewhere, forgot where I put it. Ah, here it is. The Art of the Deal, right? You get hold of it and read it and, you know, actually learn about the character that you're dealing with who's been a businessman, a very, very successful businessman all his life, and so was his father. And the stuff Trump's talking about, because I'm pro-Trump, not because I like Trump, I don't like Trump. I actually like what he does in the real world. I'm a realist. You know, I can hear all this BS all the time, and my question is, okay, what has whatever government done to improve the lives of people over their period of tenure, their period that they were in government? And most of the times it's absolutely nothing. Promised everything, delivered nothing. Where Trump goes in, promises what he says, delivers what he says. Within, 2 months? Incredible. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Trump's a national hero, international hero. So, and that's based on his performance. It's not based on whether I like him or I don't like him, or I don't like his hair, or I don't like his wife, or I don't like his... You know, this sort of, the mentality... You know, I'll give you an example. I went into a service station the other day, and this is when Trump got re-elected, and I walked in and I said, thank God President Trump's re-elected. And some bloke attacked me just about, some dude in a suit. Oh, he raved on about how we didn't like Trump. And I just listened to it for about 10 seconds. I mean, there's no logic in what they say. And I said to him, okay, just hang on. I said, whether you like him or you don't like him, I said, you look like a businessman, I'll ask you a question. Did he turn the economy of America around in the first term? Oh, he went, oh, well, yeah, I suppose he did. I said, well, that's what he's elected for. Whether you like him or whether I like him or someone else doesn't like him, that's beside the point. The point is, did he get the job done? And the answer was yes. And this time round, he's in mega drive, and so he should be after all the crap he's had to put up with. So, let's get back to the few points. Okay, tariffs. What is tariffs? Tariffs are simply a charge on goods and services to level the playing field. I heard just recently someone say, well, I believe in free trade. And this is from the freedom movement. Oh, you believe in free trade, do you? Let's have a think now. We've been in globalism for 20 to 30 years, you fool. Globalism. You know, mass communism, where multinational corporations aren't paying tax, where China has taken manufacturing, even from the US, especially the US, have taken it offshore, you know, with some involvement with US companies, and they've used slave labour as labour over there. Then they've resold the goods and services by plagiarising and cheating and all the patents and everything else, and reselling the stuff back to the US. So this is how it really is rolling out. in the year 2000, China only had 6% of the market, the manufacturing market globally. If they're allowed to go without tariffs, with, I believe in tariffs, I don't believe in tariffs. Jesus, give us a break. Now, at this point in time, in 2000, let's think about this. At 2000, China had 6% of the global market, manufacturing-wise. If they're allowed to continue what they're doing now, step by step, taking over each country with, building infrastructure, all the little tricky things that they do, they will wind up having 45% by the year 2030. 45% of the global manufacturing. They will be an economic powerhouse. Then they'll be, along with that, a military might, and a communist military might at all as well. So that's what's happening. So Trump knew this. Trump has been saying the same. Go back on the internet and listen to the conversations and the interviews he's had 30 years ago, for God's sake. He was saying the same thing then. They were saying, would you ever think of, running as president back when he was, a lot younger? And he said, I don't know. But he said, I don't like how America's operating. If they're being done over, every business deal they're being done over, which they were. And the reason is you haven't got businessmen running the government. You've got bureaucrats who are only worried about their gravy train payment that they get at the end of their, golden handshake. Same in Australia. Australia's just as bad as the US. We need dramatic change in this country. Just as Donald Trump has been the catalyst for the end of globalisation. What is globalisation? Those that go, I like trading and I don't like trade or tariffs or whatever. This is what globalisation is. Globalisation is mass global communism. Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, unelected bureaucrats, unelected, just like a military junta who, or a coup that takes over a government, unelected, they're the ones subtly dictating and infiltrating governments with, as Klaus Schwab says, with our agents such as Trudeau. He's one of our men, our young people. So for years and years, they've been working on what they call basically the ultimate plan to take over the world. I mean, it's like a cartoon, really. But at the end of the day, what Trump's done, he's put a stop to it. Ronald Reagan was the other one that, partially did this. And I'll remind you, with Ronald Reagan, he brought tariffs in very similar. And, there was a drop in the stock market, and I'll handle the stock market in a second. And after there was a drop in the stock market in the 80s, when Ronald Reagan was in, the United States went through the greatest boom ever from the 1980s on. Microsoft, all that, all these companies just generated enormous wealth. Now, it just happens that Donald Trump is on the cusp of all that again, and he stopped the biggest communist country in the world from advancing to be basically a manufacturing giant throughout the world. So he's put the brakes on China and other countries that aren't dealing with the US, fairly. This is what tariffs are all about. It's about bringing the playing field back to level. Like, I'll just give you a local example. Here's a local example brought to you by Palachuk. The cab drivers in Australia, right? Say, for instance, you've got black and white cabs. I was going to the hospital the other day. I had a bit of an injury on the shoulder that I'm sorting out at the moment. And I'm talking to the cab drivers, and I said, what happens with the Uber thing? And they said, well, yeah, we had to pay up to $500,000 for a cab licence locally, and then Palachuk just allowed Uber, which is a multinational corporation basically, just to come in and undermine the local business. That's globalisation. Now, back in 2019, when I was a Senate candidate for Rise Up Australia, we were talking about, similar things with the finances. And you go on to riseupaustraliabrisbane.com And you'll see a lot of this, including all the BS about the pandemic, about COVID and everything else like that. But we were talking about at that particular time when I was running for as a lead senator for Queensland, that big companies like I think it was like Apple had made $9 billion and paid zero tax in Australia. Gee, that's a good deal, isn't it? Now, how do local businesses compete with that? They can't. Now, we'll get on to the clean green scam. Now, all these stinking windmills and all this so-called electrical power that's going to take over the world, they're all subsidised by the government. In other words, your taxpayers' money is paying for these characters to operate. They're not making money. They're not actually producing any significant power. And the mentality of the new green scheme, which is just a total Ponzi scheme. It is a total, I don't know how we've gone down this road without people waking up significantly, but it's a total Ponzi scheme. The new green, this and that and everything else. And all climate change is going to wipe everyone out. That's just complete unscientific BS. There's no science to back it up. And it's draining the resources of various countries, including Australia, trying to achieve nothing. It's not going to work. So let's just go back to, I can go down that line, but we'll just stop it there. Now let's just go back to what's happening with the local, or not the local, but the national election, the federal election on the 3rd of May. Now, Albo and the Greens, of course, if you're conservative, you realise that Albo and the Greens are totally woke. But Dutton's been shooting himself in the foot. He won't separate himself from the Paris Accord. What's the Paris Accord? When we signed up to the climate scheme, to sign up to the Green New Deals and all this, signed up to the World Health Organization, to let bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats, run the country by remote control. So, God, what's going to happen? Look, I better finish this off here. So I'll just cover these points. Number one, we'll get back to this. Number one, regarding tariffs. It just is all Trump's doing is levelling the playing field. Now, 70 countries, well, that's a few countries, isn't it? European Union, Japan, Taiwan, Mexico, South America, they've all come up to the, and you'll see Canada will come up shortly, Britain will come up shortly. They've all come up to Trump and said, well, oh yeah, okay, well, yeah, we've been ripping you off. So you want a fair deal? So that it's equal. That's what you call equal trading. That's a level playing field. Now that also, you've got to remember that by doing this, Trump is recreating jobs in the USA. He's recreating the car manufacturing industry in the USA. Now, people say, tariffs are causing inflation. Well, yes, inflation was already there before Trump did anything, and the inflation was there because of the Biden and the Hillary Clintons and the Obama, all their mentality was load the gravy train for their particular bureaucrats and just keep printing money. That's all they care about. They couldn't care about the middleman. They couldn't care about, the middle of the road American, or for that in our country, or the middle of the road Australian. They just, the top 1% are just going to run the dictates. That's about it. So now what Trump's doing is now putting money back into the middle class through tariffs, through the manufacturing boom that's going to happen out of what he's doing. And secondly, the big catch-up, the perfect timing is with Trump, with, make a deal or no deal, is artificial intelligence. He's running with, probably subconsciously, but he's running with the greatest development of our era, which is artificial intelligence, which will zoom up the boom like we have never seen before. Now, getting back to Australia, you know, we've had 20 to 30 years of either side of politics putting us further and further and further into debt. So, you know, I think the Americans are on about $40 trillion of debt, 37 trillion, and I think Australia's on about 10 trillion of debt all up. Just go and have a look at debtclockaustralia.com and the American debtclock.com, and you'll see that. Now, what's going to happen in Australia? Well, you know, here we are. Whatever Albo's promising, he's borrowing. And whatever the government before that did, they borrowed. And then if we borrow money from the global banks, they charge us massive interest. But here's the kicker. They just print the money out of thin air, like that. So just imagine this. Australia is just, it's a credit card, right? The economy is a credit card. And the assets on that credit card are our oil, gas, gold, you name it, our assets, you know, the fish in the sea and everything else, and the minerals, and that's our assets. Now, we do not need to run up debt with global banks. Now, if you want to know more on, you know, the economy, on how to run an economy profitably in Australia, go on to Gerard Rennick, Senator Gerard Rennick's website, and have a look at his plan to recreate Australia into cash flow positive. Now, how is he going to do that? He just comes to mind because he's a mate of mine as well. So, how is he going to do that? Well, you know, the Commonwealth Bank, we used to print our own money because we've got our own gold reserves, we've got our own resources, and we can print money just like the global banks and have our own currency. Well, we did, you know, in the days with the Commonwealth Bank, pounds, shillings and pence. Back then, we were actually cash flow positive, in the merino wool days, and we used to rely on wheat and everything else for exports to the other parts of the world. So it's very possible for us to go back to cash flow positive and then fire up revenue to build infrastructure in this country. So what the current, both governments actually, both Liberal and Labor, Liberal has to be totally reformed. Dutton's not the man to do it. Perhaps Andrew Hastie. Have a look at Andrew Hastie. He's got some credibility as far as I'm concerned. But at the end of the day, to turn Australia around, this opportunity on the back of what Trump's doing, because what Trump's doing will change each country, especially UK and Australia, to parallel his policies. Because his policies are basically prosperity policies for every American, for every Australian, for every UK citizen over there. And Nigel Farage will be the future Prime Minister of the UK. Then prosperity will happen. You watch and wait and see. I think it's only a few years out for the next election, but it might be earlier due to what's going on in the world today. Now, with Australia, all we've got to do is recreate our own bank again, and give the global corporations, they have to pay tax in this country. We relieve the middle class workers down. They don't have to pay, really don't have to pay tax if we're charging the right amount of tax to the global corporations. And the minerals. Clive Palmer's got a very good idea, being a minerals man. He said all you've got to do is charge the Chinese Communist government, a 15% tariff basically on iron ore, and hey, presto, we've paid off the national debt. So there's simple solutions to make Australia cash flow positive, but what the governments, plural, have done over the last 20 to 30 years from about Bob Hawke's era, what they've done, they've just sold us out. They've allowed the global corporations to come into Australia and basically pay no tax. Okay, they've sort of created some sort of employment, but they've raped, pillaged and plundered and pulled their profits back out overseas, right? So all we do is reverse that so that, and the other thing is, but while I mention it, the other thing is both sides of the government, both Liberal and Labor, more so Labor, but they've been increasing the so-called immigration, and all they do, the reason why they do that We haven't got the infrastructure to support them, but they increase that because it makes, you know, the GDP look a little bit better. Now, the GDP is a false figure because it doesn't include gas and electricity, which is the thing that, you know, that's why prices go up. Why do we get inflation? Because gas and electricity has gone through the roof. Why has gas and electricity gone through the roof? Well, you've got the new clean green scams going on, and we've had to subsidise it. So it's this vicious circle spiralling downwards cash flow wise. Now, just like Trump's doing, we've got to stop that now and reverse it. So who's going to reverse it? Well, it ain't going to be Albo, I'll tell you that now. And certainly not the Greens. And, you know, Dutton, I'm not really happy with Dutton either. So my bet is the independents. I think Jared Rennick actually has got the finance. I believe totally. When I say I believe, I've read all the data. It's not because I believe it emotionally. It's because I believe it factually. You go onto Senator Rennick's website, you read the financial plan he's got. That's the blueprint to turn Australia around. Now, the other freedom senators, such as, you know, Dr. William Bay, Senator Malcolm Roberts, and a few of the others, I don't know what's going to happen with Trumpeter Patriots. I mean, I love Clive Palmer, but, you know, the guys and people that he's got in this Trumpeter Patriots, I mean, where were they over the last 5 years? They just suddenly appear 10 minutes before an election. The governing factor that I use when I'm looking at any candidate for anything is what were they doing in the last 5 years? Where were they? Did they stand up against the mandates? Did they stand up against the lockdowns? Did they stand up against the not safe or not effective mRNA injections? Do they know anything about it? You've got to look at that, because the people who did, they're the ones we should have in government for the new transformational government. So very quickly, number one in that area is definitely people who stood up say Dr. William Bay. Yes, he's going for the Senate. You've got Senator Rennick, absolutely, stood up against the whole Liberal Party machine. You've got Senator Roberts, yes. You know, I keep mentioning Clive Palmer, even though he's not running, but he's done a lot of good to stand up for the people of Australia regarding the mandates and everything else. And he has got money to back up, you know, his plans, so he sort of factors in and supports the what I call the freedom movement. Now, the final thing I'll say is the big thing is freedom of speech. It's got to be put into the Constitution, and we've got to cancel woke altogether. I mean, you know, this woke thing is totally destroying family units. It's destroying the education. It's destroying people's brains, basically. The mentality of it. I mean, I just think it's quite humorous in my perspective. But hey, they believe it. You know, they believe it that a little baby in its mother's womb suddenly wakes up one morning and says, "Oh, maybe I think I'll be a girl and I'm a boy." I mean, just this is stuff that if people said that in my day, and I've worked in hospitals, you would be put into the psych ward on medication. It's insane. So look, bottom line is, I'll just give you a little quick view. I mean, I've jumped around everything, but I just had to because it was just driving me mad. This election, it's going to be a funny election. It'll be hung. It'll be a hung election. 3rd of May, Dutton has got 1 step forward, 4 steps back, 1 step forward. I'm still in the Paris Accord. I'm tied in with the WTF. I've got an idea. I think we will get China around to Darwin. Oh, that's a good idea. We'll get rid of the soldier in that we had in the Liberal Party who said women shouldn't be on the front line getting shot at. Oh, you can't have that. You've got to have women in the front line being shot at. I mean, and the more I listen to all this crap, the more I realise we've got a bunch of morons trying to run for government, except for our freedom guys. And in the freedom guys, I really listen to them, and I think, well, you know, okay, let's leave it at this. Dr. William Bay, he's got a super intelligent dude, and hopefully we can get him in this time. If not, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Senator Rennick, yep, financial planner. He's a general, and you know, I believe that what he's doing will expand rapidly, and he's got the plan as far as changing the finance of Australia. Mr. Malcolm Roberts, great guy. I'd like to see Malcolm actually running his own show, or if not, running the party. There, I'll just throw it out there. Clive Palmer, you've got to back up things financially. Trumpeter Patriots will disturb things, but, you know, I don't know any of the people in the Trumpet, or Senator Babette, I suppose, but, you know, you've got to have people who have been doing, standing up against all the mandates and everything long term, like at least 5 years. Craig Kelly, he's another one I can think of. Craig Kelly, he's been a warrior, very much like Senator Rennick. So Craig, I think Craig's career is going to go to the top. So anyway, that's my 2 bobs worth today. So this election, I think it'll be hung Parliament, and then there'll be a second event, I believe, in 6 months after that, probably October, November. They'll either have a double dissolution, or they'll have a referendum on free speech and all the rest of it, or they'll have both. So this, I think, this election's, you know, even I listen to some of the mainline news occasionally, and they're all saying the same thing. Well, you know, Dutton's 1 point ahead, Albo's 1 point ahead. I mean, for God's sake, Dutton, make a stand, for God's sake, mate. Anyway, you know, what will be, will be. But the 3rd of May, hopefully we'll get our freedom guys in, such as Dr. Bay and Senator Rennick and Senator Roberts and what have you, and down in New South Wales, definitely Craig Kelly. I want to see him in. And let's see where we go from there. Look, it'll be, as far as I can see, it'll be round 1 in the 3rd of May, and then there's going to be a lot of kerfuffling after that, because Trump's tariffs will shake the globalistic BS worldwide, and he actually is dismantling globalism, thank God. And in 6 months after that, I think about October, November, there'll be another either referendum or a double D. And the other thing is, I believe, this is me saying this, I believe Donald Trump himself will visit Australia this year. That should stir things up. I'll be at the meeting, that's for certain. How about you? Graham Healy, Healy Report over and out. Just go on my website, www.riseupaustralia.com, and this Sunday we do have a fundraising dinner for Dr. William Bay. Just go on my website and click on register. You know, the fundraising amount's only $30. Buy your own dinner, and Dr. Bay is bringing, I think he's bringing a few people with him to do some other speeches, but you'll hear directly from the one and only Dr. William Bay, who's a pretty smart guy and a really good bloke. Okay, look forward to seeing some of yous at this Sunday at about 5 o'clock in Trapilli at the Yum Cha restaurant. It's all on the website, www.riseupaustralia.com. Have a great day. God bless you.